You are all fools to challenge me! I'll crush you! It's been a long time since I've been at full power. Come at me with everything you've got, understand?
We're gonna war. We're gonna eat that sauce up for breakfast.
It's another episode of the Red Pill Hardcore Radio Show. Yeah, there it goes. There's my theme song. I am the principal host. I am V. Right here on RBN. And you're brought to you by TRPH.com. Yeah, give it up, please, gentlemen. This big social network, TRPH.com. Okay. I'm liking it. So this is the new setup here. New setup. I'm joined by Theo here tonight. Theo, you want to hop on video? Because we are doing a video cast tonight. You picked a hell of a night to join up.
Okay, I'm going to have to switch devices.
Okay. Well, join back in because you're going to love this episode.
Oh, cool.
All right. Yes. So as promised, yesterday, if you were listening to the episode, talking about police corruption and these sort of things, well, I have probably the United States' foremost authority in the subject matter. Yes, indeed. And I just want to say, hey, welcome. I was just introducing you as I was adding you. I don't know how to say your last name. So if you would introduce yourself. And by the way, we have Theo from the UK. He's an auditor or ex-auditor, and he handles all connections between other auditors, YouTube channels, things like that. He's one of my media guys. So he decided he wanted to hop in on this episode. So
very cool. Very cool. Well,
yes.
My name is Johann Drolshagen, and I am a software engineer, and I am the individual with my team that is behind the Brady List, which you can find online, which is giglio-bradylist.com.
Okay. Excellent. And I actually, doing a little research and just trying to find what I can do about corrupt cops. What there has to be something that can be done. And something I did come up with, and this was about maybe a year and a half ago, was the Brady List. And, YouTube videos and people talking about these people are on the Brady List. And I always wondered, is that like a government, like internal affairs sort of list or something like that? But that doesn't seem to be the case. This is your baby.
Well, sort of. Okay, so the Brady List itself, this is a little bit of a misnomer, and it's believe it or not, it's not even about law enforcement. It's not about bad cops. It's about evidence, and it's named after a case from 1963, a civil rights era case, where SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, stepped up and said that because prosecutors have all of the power, they have all of the chips, they have all of the ability, the enforcement, the investigation, that there's an obligation to maintain fair trials. And fair trials include the disclosure of any exculpatory evidence. So in the event that say a prosecutor wants to charge someone with a crime and they're investigating the crime and they come up with evidence that somebody else did it, they must disclose that evidence to the defense counsel in its entirety without being asked, without requiring a motion from the defense, and everything it must be disclosed in the light, or must be considered and disclosed in the light most favorable to the defendant. So Brady's really about evidence. Now, once you start applying Brady, for example, in another case at the SCOTUS level, in Giglio, Giglio goes a little bit further and has specific to do with any individual and all information about that individual upon whose testimony will be relied by the prosecutor. And that is where law enforcement comes into this. And a Giglio letter, which is well known, or a do not call list of officers that have been issued Giglio letters, is when a prosecutor feels that because of past performance or previous behavior of a particular officer, that they will no longer call that officer to testify, and any information of previous misconduct, which is considered impeachment evidence to the character of the officer, must also be disclosed in the event that they call that officer. Now, this isn't just officers that have received a Giglio letter. This is any police officer has any information about their character and honesty and truthfulness and abidance of the rules, up to and including even things like use of force that are deemed entirely justified. That information must be disclosed to a defendant in a criminal case. So Brady is the encapsulating term that holds all of that information and the obligation for the prosecutors to disclose.
So in other words, you're taking it at least a few steps further.
Absolutely, deeper into the system, and that's where we've got to go, because the implications are that if the prosecutor doesn't uphold their obligations, then we don't have fair trials. We can have, and we've seen this many times where we have multiple people convicted of the same crime, and there's no way the multiple people committed a singular act, but if the prosecutor doesn't disclose that and doesn't communicate that, which it does qualify as prosecutorial misconduct, and a prosecutor can be disbarred under the failure to disclose. It's actually probably the number one reason for a finding of prosecutorial misconduct. Then we have to go back to what the Supreme Court introduced into the decision process, which comes all the way from the Bill of Rights, which is that no innocent person should be punished in the system, even if it means failing to convict otherwise guilty individuals. Unfortunately, our system has swung so far in the other direction that it has become an economy of scale to support the prison industrial complex and the law enforcement complex, where we've just made it,
I would
automatic.
say so. Whenever most courts and counties, they have at minimum of 95% conviction rate. That's absurd.
Yeah, and that's at the state level. Federal level's up at 98% conviction, and that's by plea. So if you have 98% by plea and then you have 2% go to trial, only 2% of those ever, not I mean the 2% of the 2% ever succeed in being found not guilty or by another random stretch innocent.
Yeah, that is very telling. When you know that the system is working against you, there's no way that anyone's out for any actual justice, just for the simple fact they can stack 20, 30, 40 more years on you if you don't take a plea. That right there should be illegal. If there's a certain crime that warrants 10 years, then that crime should warrant 10 years. If it warrants 5 years, etc., then that's just what it should be.
Yeah, that's what we call the trial penalty, and that is that. And this is an interesting case, which, matter of fact, was just decided by the Supreme Court here a couple of weeks ago. That there's an increased penalty of going to trial and being found guilty as opposed to taking the plea bargain. That's a problem. What you're talking about on top of that is when officers, and more accurately, again, this has mostly to do with prosecutors, as prosecutors they don't get enough credit for the bad things that they do, when they stack on charges, knowing that they're going to be negotiating that through a plea later on, that's actually, as of just a couple of weeks ago, by SCOTUS, considered prosecutorial misconduct all by itself. So we haven't seen anything we haven't seen the market truly react and change to that new decision. But there is very clearly and very definitely a precedent of that bad behavior, and just now there's a response to minimize that impact.
Absolutely. And I know we have a lot of auditors out there. I love my auditing friends. I don't know if you associate with
Good
any
work.
of them.
Oh
Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm a computer geek, so I'm not out there rocking and rolling like some of these folks are. But I love the work and I love to see it done, and it's an absolutely incredibly essential piece. We need to get, cameras on every phone in every hand, and every hand pointed at law enforcement when they're out there behaving allegedly in our behalf.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Theo's got me in contact with some of those guys, and the work they do, yeah, it's very risky. I myself am a keyboard warrior, so to speak. Obviously, I'm always in the studio here, but it's very telling. It's very, I mean, everybody has their parts and what they should be doing, and we all
Yes.
got to chip in. So I'm loving the idea, and before we get into how this stuff works, I want to know how you got into this to begin with.
Well, I was so the other end of the spectrum, actually. In 2018, I split my time between California and Washington, D.C., and I got admitted to the Washington State Bar back in 2009, purely by accident, by the way. I'm not a lawyer. I never wanted to be a lawyer. I still don't want to be a lawyer. Don't really care for lawyers. But I started a project where I was actually using video conferencing to try and make an expedited protocol to settle, low-level like small claims cases and that type of thing in a much faster, more efficient manner, where people could handle their access to the courts themselves, as opposed to going through lawyers and that type of thing. And then in 2018, California passed a bill called numbered 1421. It was SB 1421, and it actually made these police misconduct records part of the sunshine laws that made them publicly accessible. So in 2019, I had joined. I was asked to sit on a task force for the California State Bar called the Access Through Innovation of Legal Services Task Force. And our job was to look at rules and ethics. I was in the Rules and Ethics Subcommittee, and we were to look at ways to improve accessibility, predominantly in civil cases, to the system. While I was doing that, SB 1421 passed and was signed into law, and I was approached with the technical challenge of saying that, specific for California, we have 700 different law enforcement organizations, plus about 150 or so prosecutors' offices. And then later SB 2 was passed, which created the State Post Department, which stands for Police Officer Standards and Training. And the challenge, technologically speaking, was how to have 850 disparate lists of information that needed to be disclosed by the prosecutors, so that the court could see that the information was being communicated to the defense counsel and ensure that the fair trials were going on. So I solved that technological problem of allowing, and I should mention that the Brady List is actually not just a list, it's software that allows each of these entities to go in and enter their own information. So a sheriff's department, for example, can put in its police misconduct records, a post department can put in its decertifications, and a prosecutor can put in its Giglio letter, do not call list. And then these are all combined and calculated and analyzed at the individual agency level, county level, state level. And then I just expanded it to handle the full list of 18,000 or so law enforcement organizations across the country. And boom, we have the current project. Only problem is then we found out that prosecutors were not disclosing the evidence the way they were supposed to. They had sort of given themselves policies that gave themselves an out. And so we ran square into the situation where we now had this great big platform and it was all fantastic, but the prosecutors didn't want everybody to know that there was information and evidence that wasn't being disclosed. Oh, V, I've lost you.
Yeah, we lost V's audio. You're still on air here. V, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I know we lost Theo here. There's so many directions we can go with this.
Sure.
I
know they're all good, right?
There's so many corrupt cops out there. I've dealt with my fair share. I've had marijuana planted on myself or my car at least twice. In the state of Texas, Wilson County, number 2 federal county in the entire country, something like that, and they have a 98, I think almost a 99 conviction rate. I know, yeah, I was a homeless vet, living in my car, just going back and forth to work, just trying to do my thing, trying to get on my feet. And, I was parked next to a friend's place whose mom didn't like me. Although I had his permission to park there, I didn't have hers. So she would call the police. And, the first couple times they came to me, harassed me, right? And there's nothing they could do. Oh, the third time they came and harassed me while sleeping in the back seat. Oh, we need to search your car. No, you're not going to search my car. Okay, bring out the drug dog. Oh, the drug dog alerted. Which there's no way in the hell you can prove that in court. Anyways, shape or form. What the dog's thinking. You have telepathy? No, it scratched the car. So what? It has claws. It's an animal. And you brought it to the car. But yeah, next thing you know, oh, there's a big bag of weed. Okay, sure. So that was a reason to take my car and further, and it's like, I've been telling people, you know what? They planted it. Oh, well. Let's keep it, right? No, let's skip the break. Let's skip the break if you can here. And it's well, it's just one of those situations. I know that it's my word against the police, but their word is over my word no matter what, which is a major flaw in the system. That everything should be proven upon evidence, even planted evidence, not just word against someone else's word. So I don't even know what happened. I think somehow that got dropped or something. I don't know. I didn't take a charge, so all I remember. But at some point, it was just one of those things. Get out of our neighborhood. One of those things. We don't want you around here. So people now have a way to do something about that, and that's reporting to the Brady List.
Yeah, so part of the challenge or part of the lack of balance with the story that you just shared is that there's very little you can do. And the challenge, for example, let's say the scenario is exactly the same, but you were able to file a complaint that says this officer's testimony is false. They planted the drugs. They made false statements. It wasn't mine, regardless of the situation in which I was in, sleeping in the back of my car, whatever the case may be. And then that complaint can go on the record and can stay on the record for the next poor bastard that gets caught the same way, right? Because these officers aren't going to do it to just one person, and they aren't going to do it just one time. So what happens is you'll start to see a pattern, and that's only if the reports are taken and if the complaints are filed and if that file is disclosed and that type of thing. There's rarely ever, and I can honestly say I don't know of any instances where all of a sudden a perfectly good uh, officer decides to do one bad thing. It's never one thing. So we need the mechanism to be able to identify the good officers from the bad officers. And please know I don't want to even try to get into the good apples versus bad apples argument, because I don't buy it. Because the problem is that we get a systemic challenge where none of the personnel records are being shared. None of them include the information that's supposed to be there. None of the complaints get filed properly, and none of the prosecutors disclose the evidence. So it goes way beyond good apples or bad apples, and the same mechanism for prosecutors doesn't exist, and now we've got it. The same mechanism for judges doesn't exist, and now we've got it. It is not hard to say, fill in a form and tell us who did what it was wrong and what was the impact, and then maintain that record. That's all we're doing. If you remember, not too long ago, or in some small communities it still happens now, if you need to issue a public notice, you pay a newspaper to have it put into the newspaper, and it's technically, it's called a court of public record, and it's published. Everybody gets a chance to see it. It's there if anybody goes to look it up historically. That's all we're doing. It's the ability for them to put their information in the way it's supposed to. It gives an additional ability for individuals that have a public complaint. They can go to our website, they can click on public complaints, and it actually gives them a form and says, just fill in these pieces. You can make it anonymous, or you can do it on someone else's behalf. It takes all that information in, and then it correlates the information into the individual officer's profile. It puts that individual's officer profile on their employers, which officers now, because of consolidation throughout the country of law enforcement, officers can be a sheriff's deputy, a police officer, and a tribal officer all simultaneously, and it cross-references all that information. It analyzes it, and it compiles it again by county and by state, and then at the federal level.
Theoretically, with that, and let me know what you think here, Theo. Theo's my software guy. He's my super engineer guy, which is why it's great that he's joining us, right?
Right on.
When you have that kind of information, you can kind of create an algorithm or backtrack, because of course you're analyzing the behavior, but then you can see the patterns and maybe find out if there's gang activity within a police department, let's say. Well, you know how you were talking about in the LA, these people gang up in little groups and do their thing. So you can sort of track these sort of things, right?
Absolutely, and just so we're clear, having a gang in a law enforcement is a disqualifier all by itself. There's a case that went through SCOTUS called Able, US v. Able, and I think it was either 73 or 76. I think it actually got reviewed twice. That sort of took the traditional law enforcement definition of a gang as applied to a defendant, and then they turned it around and applied it to law enforcement. And here in Los Angeles, there's a journalist by the name of Charisse Castle that's been doing amazing work on disclosing these gangs within the LA Sheriff's Department. So we've got about 35 gangs. They actually brought in Rand Corporation to do a separate third-party Office of Inspector General kind of review. And as bad as we thought it was in Los Angeles, all of a sudden Rand goes and does the same thing in Chicago and finds 160 gangs. in the Chicago PD. So this is not a small or inconsistent or maybe not a problem thing. This is a major problem, and we've just had some disclosure. We finally got some officers to testify on the record here in Los Angeles. The gangs are fighting each other. During the pandemic and COVID, when everybody's thinking that Black Lives Matter protests or riots, we've got LA Sheriff's Department going on work slowdowns, specifically to try and affect and diminish the impact of the research into the gangs. So it's going on all over the place.
I would like to put this into perspective for those of you that are scratching your heads. Think of a police department or I don't know, a division, county, whatever, as a football league. You may have 10, 12, 11 different teams in that football league.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all playing against each other.
Yep.
So, I mean, police, I don't see why they wouldn't do that. That actually makes perfect sense to me. I've got my team's better than your team, and you know, if this team over here is being corrupt and you're going to war with the other teams, there's little, or you know, and the whole police establishment is trying to keep this under wraps. That's why it's hard to prosecute a dirty cop, because if you expose one, you're going to expose them all. Potentially.
Well, let's go even further, because remember, if Brady's about evidence and the evidence is actually an obligation of the prosecutor, now you've got a challenge where we know this is going on at the line officer level. We know there's information that the prosecutors don't have. We know the prosecutors are not sharing the information, which makes, we're talking tens of thousands of cases are wrongful convictions for prosecutorial misconduct for failing to disclose exculpatory evidence. I mean, Hennepin County right now is imploding with these types of cases that are coming back up, that which, by the way, Hennepin County is Minnesota, around Minneapolis, where Derek Chauvin was convicted, and now they've got to go retroactively back to every case Derek Chauvin and his guys have ever touched in order to do a notice of exculpatory evidence and provide an opportunity for a new trial to everybody that was convicted, even if they took a plea bargain.
Okay, well, I got a question for my partner here, Theo. Is any of our auditors, do they know anything about the Brady List? Mike, let's get this break. It's too good. I'm sorry. we gotta. No, we'll take the top of the hour break, and then we'll kick some more butt. But it's too important. Is there any form of a Brady List there in the UK? And do our American auditors use the Brady List? Because I think that's a powerful tool for our auditors out there. Don't you think?
I think that would be awesome. I don't think we have anything equivalent to the Brady List over here. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. We definitely do need more transparency, more accountability over here. It's very different to the US over here. It's more, and the gangs. I see the gangs, even though that they deny they exist. I see them. I see how competitive they are as well with each other. But it's almost as if they've come together on. They do come together on certain causes, like auditors. They all have a distaste for auditors. So yeah, it's interesting.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Come on, tell us how you really feel, though. Well, I think, that's why everybody looks at the United States. We have to lead by example. Hopefully, we can have some form of a Brady List done in the UK. Those guys, oh, wow. I mean, I can't imagine being in a country where police have guns and you can't. I just, I'd rather go out with the guns blazing, uh, if I got to go out. But anyways, I came up with this train of thought, and you were there with me, Theo, as we were developing the sort of train of thought that we should have. You know how we have this municipal Wi-Fi trying to pop up everywhere. Governments just because they want to spy on people without having to go through a middleman of a of a corporation like Verizon or AT&T. They want municipal Wi-Fi's. That being what it is, whatever. But uh, these body cams of the police should be connected to their Wi-Fi, whatever, tethered from their car, whatever, and their body cams should be public. These are public servants. I hate having to call somebody to get information about a police officer and they can't share the police officer's name. That's garbage. These are police. They're public servants. Paid. Anybody who gets paid with our tax dollars should have a camera on them and their activities at all times. That's fundamental. I think that should be written in the Constitution.
I also think that there should be a code of conduct on how they operate those cameras, because I mean I watched a video earlier on where they literally abused a 13-year-old girl, and the way they're aware that the camera is on, they'll move away, they'll face the camera in a different direction, or they'll cover it up or mute it, or and they'll even edit the material when you request it, and then you've got a certain amount of days to request it, otherwise it's gone forever.
But
That's
we
ridiculous.
should be able to tap into their cameras live.
I think they should be
24/7.
live streamed. They're public information. They should be live streamed. They can't turn them off. And I don't think they should have them on their chest. I think they should have them on their heads. So everything they're looking at, we can see.
Everything they're looking at,
we can see.
Absolutely. Let's give them a third eye. Why not? Let's enlighten these people.
Well, they want to keep an eye on everyone else. I mean, when they're the ones that we really need to keep an eye on, right? They're the ones that are have the immunity. They're the ones that get away with all these crimes.
Stuff.
Yeah?
Yes.
They're the biggest criminals on the planet, and yet they, are immune from any prosecution. I mean, it's legal for them to rape, torture, and murder, but anyone else.
Well, and I want to know your thoughts on this, Johann, but I want to go ahead and further say, and with the simple fact that Obama and all these, there's some people that argue about who made this legal, but it became official with Obama that the government can lie to the people. It's legal. Propaganda is legal. Officers of the law can lie to get the information that they want.
Yeah.
You don't have to be undercover. Regular officer.
Yeah. No.
It's legally allowed
in the regular
to lie.
course of business, they're welcome to use that piece. And one of the things, just in case anybody's listening to this, that's not immediately today or tomorrow kind of thing. There's a big strike going on with the Amazon workers, and in conjunction with the federal government, the U.S. government forcing the company Amazon to negotiate in good faith, they actually mistakenly allowed a rather fantastically large multi-billion-dollar, it might even be a couple of $trillion contract for cloud-based storage to go through with Amazon Web Storage, and it's not commonly known, but in the tech community, it's pretty well known that the reason for that tech space, that cloud storage space that they were looking for, is for all the cameras that we have. It's for all the recordings that we have. Unfortunately, most of those are surveillance cameras, but they could be and should very much be all government meetings, all court hearings, all body cameras. And we do have some they're amazingly basic now that 10 years ago we didn't have them, but we have these instances of machine learning that can convert an entire video to a transcript, which means that it's now indexable and searchable, as well as artificial intelligence instances that can review a video and, for example, for privacy purposes, can remove the sort of like fog out the faces of individuals whose privacy would otherwise be penetrated. Plus, if they're loading these body cams, even if it was not live, but it was daily loading of these files, it can make sure that the oversight of those files and access to those files was granted by default. So your prosecutor or district attorney or attorney general's office or internal affairs or even the defense counsel, a mayor's council, a county's council, whatever, could get access to those videos in a timely manner. They could get access to the raw videos, and they could have public access, which would satisfy FOIA and sunshine requests in a very timely manner, under a day. And it's the processing ratio is 1-to-1. So for every hour of video, it takes an hour to process. But past that, there is no excuse for this not going on. And there is, although I'm not overly optimistic about it, President Biden yesterday signed a executive order, one of the facets of which was to do a nationwide funds matching campaign to put body cameras on all law enforcement in the country. The executive order was specifically compelling to federal agencies, but the FBI is as corrupt as they come. Yeah, exactly. So it's not like the FBI is calling me up and saying, by the way, here's all our special agent misconduct records. So I'll be impressed if anything from that executive order happens. But at least, and this seems to be an oh-so-American thing lately, at least the money is being spent in the right direction, allegedly.
At least it's not going in their pocket.
Right.
And could this be the one? I think it's sort of a give and take thing. Biden has screwed up so much; he's got to do something right. I mean, most presidents, it's screw us over 60% or 70%, give us 30 or 40. Biden is the only one that's been out there taking 90%, and people are listening intently for that 10%.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's supposed to be one of the things in the executive order was actually supposed to be a nationwide police misconduct database. The problem is, and I've been involved with this for years. The problem is they took a couple of $1 million, they sent it out to Boise, Idaho, to this group called International Association of Directors of Law Enforcement Standards and Training, IDLEST. Well, all they are is a bunch of old retired cops that try to work with other cops on training and policy issues. They're still representing the interests of law enforcement. They're not representing justice. They're certainly not representing prosecutors or the defendants. And they're now supposed to be doing the same list that I'm doing, but they want to keep it private. And get this, they want to make it voluntary. So,
do you know how you make this particular thing work? Forget the ex-cops. Forget those people. Students who are, paralegals. I think that's who should be running it. Volunteer paralegals.
I absolutely think so. You get a couple of folks that are, you get a couple of folks that are ex-public defenders and have them watch body cam footage. They'll be like, violation, 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 fire that officer, right? And it's actual evidence. See, that's the point. If they don't cooperate at all, if the prosecutors don't make law enforcement cooperate, if the courts allow these cases to move forward without the prosecutors being held accountable and without the law enforcement being held accountable, we get the mass incarceration that we've got. And that's where we're at. I'm in California certainly not because I'm liberal, but because this is where the biggest problem is, right? This is where the fight is.
I say travel to Texas, but the level of corruption, I want to say, on a level of political, yes, maybe, but sociological, go to Texas. When these good old boys, these people that work with you hand in hand, and they just gonna do everything they can to get you in handcuffs. They're
And
gonna
I hate that
instigate a
we have
fight.
to have a contest on who's
I,
worse.
I have lived both in Texas and California. Okay,
Right.
I grew up in Texas. I had maybe 8 years in California. The difference being, in Texas, the cops with their Terminator haircuts, doesn't matter if they're balding or not, they're gonna have a Terminator, whatever remnant of a cut that there is, and they've got these pieces in their ears, and the Terminator shades. They all think they are the Terminator. They all do.
They are.
And
They've got the ability. They can kill you and walk away.
well, yeah. And the thing is that they instigate. In Texas, a cop will stare you down so hard it will make you angry. You get angry, you show any expression, and you're like, what? They're going to stop. That's probable cause. They're going to come harass you, and it's going to escalate.
I've got
Just
a
from a
story for you.
stare. Just
Yeah.
from a stare.
Yeah, I've got a story.
I've gone through it myself. What you looking at? What you want?
Yeah.
You want a piece of this? What you want? Let's do this.
This is why we need video evidence. We
But
got to
in
get it. We
California,
got it. Yeah.
but in California though, it's just mob mentality. One cop sees me walking down the road, driving down. Next thing you know, there are 3 cops driving down the road, all looking at me. A few minutes after that, there's 5 cops driving down the road and start circling me, looking like they're doing different things. So, but that's just
I wish I could say I was surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, this is so rampant. I mean, we've gotten to the point, our federal budget is more than 50% military-industrial complex, and this is just our military-industrial complex coming home to roost. This is our state and local budgets are over 50%. We didn't talk earlier, but I'll gladly hit the topic again, which is the consolidation of forces, because what happens is we get these little municipalities, these little towns, quaint little towns, not a lot of crime. They don't really need, it's a Barney Fife kind of scenario with like 3 cops and that kind of thing. But what happens really fast is, one of those officers will commit a civil rights violation. From the beginning, the expense of law enforcement is started out to estimate at about 40% of the tax base just for regular operating of this little municipality. And the thing is, once they get a couple of insurance claims against them, civil rights claims against them, a couple of judgments against them, their insurance rates start going up. And what happens, it'll cross 50%. And right around the time that the cost of law enforcement hits 60%, that little town's gonna go, hands up, we can't afford this anymore. We get one more judgment against us and we're done. And then, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
You brought an entirely new dynamic, and it's firing off my brain.
Well, this is the big one. This is the big one. Because what happens is then that little town says we can't handle the risk for this. So they go to the county sheriff and they say, Sheriff, we need to outsource our law enforcement to you. They leave the same officers in the place. They leave them in the same uniform. They live in the same thing, but they put them under the umbrella of the county. Now, all the town didn't get any more, didn't get anything else. But what happens is any judgment that gets found against that little community, now it's the county that's got to pay for that. So there's a larger tax base to pay the settlements, right?
That's what's popping off in my brain. I had no idea insurance had a part of this, and that really is the solution to this.
Oh, that's what this is all about.
If there was, anytime there's a claim against the county, the state, whoever, anytime there's a claim against a government entity, it should be their insurance that pays for it, not the people. Anytime a
Absolutely
check
right.
is written out to anybody.
Here's the challenge, right? Because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this isn't police accountability and there aren't bad cops. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying
I
is
don't want to
evidence.
defund the police, but I do want to make sure that they're being paid for their the risk of their work and them doing their job right.
Right.
There's too many
Big
corrupt
but.
cops out there for it to be even realistic.
Yeah, absolutely, it's an
And,
employment
and,
scam.
if you go down the road of defunding the police, we're going to get more corrupt cops who are selling drugs, pimping women, and doing all the other stuff. So we need a middle road here.
Okay,
And,
so
yeah.
let me show you the middle road. It's really important to know that, again, when we talk about the evidence, we're talking about we need the judges doing their job, which they're not. We need the prosecutors doing their job, which they're not. We need law enforcement doing their job, which they're not. The problem is when those three fail, and all of a sudden cases get tossed out, like it's going on in Hennepin County right now, they get the convictions get overturned. The prosecutors don't re-prosecute the case, regardless of guilt or innocence. Then that conviction gets considered a wrongful conviction, and then they get to sue the county, and the taxpayers are going to have to, and the property owners are going to wind up paying that tab. So what happens here is this is all based on qualified immunity. Now, you and I didn't talk about this, but this is a big portion of why I built this site, because we've got qualified immunity all over the place. There are a couple of jurisdictions that have gotten rid of it, New Mexico and Colorado. And the challenge for the folks that want to get rid of qualified immunity is they need something to suggest as an alternative to the legislatures to justify the elimination of qualified immunity. That's what the Brady List does. We take all the information from all these different sources, and it makes a perfect actuarial table in order to be able to predict who the biggest offenders are, and then we can issue professional liability insurance to the individual officers, and those officers that have too many claims against them won't be able to get professional liability insurance. The decertifications will be automatic.
But imagine that, because there's so many people out there that are so pissed with the insurance companies. Oh, their house burned down.
Oh, they're evil.
There was some. You left the stove on. Oh, wait a minute, it's your fault. Guess what? You have to pay for it. Now imagine cops having to make claims because things were so outrageous, and they have to get the payout from the insurance to go to their victims. But the insurance companies can say, hey, you know what? You screwed up. You pay out of your pocket. Now imagine some cops having to pay out of their own pocket.
Well, it would never come down to the officers doing that, because there's still indemnification, there's still all these other things. So the officer's never gonna actually have to pay out of their pocket. That's not even a risk.
That's where we need to go to correct the system, though. That's where we need to go.
And I agree with that, and I can understand that, except that the challenge is that there's going to be an umbrella policy for the community, whatever community level that is, state, county, municipal, whatever the case may be. All these calculations and even the payments are going to be done on behalf of the officer. The biggest thing is to be able to identify the individual officers, the ones that are responsible for it, and then remove them from being able to continually make these offenses or violate people's rights in such a way that these settlements need to be paid constantly. And that's what's going on now, because if you talk to county board of supervisors that sincerely want change in misconduct rules and this type of thing, the fact of the matter is they never have the information about which officers they need to act against in order to diminish the payouts. And now our payouts per every state is in the millions. It is Colorado just the 2020 numbers were like $14 million. And even the Attorney General's office allegedly, because I think it was a bullshit statement, but the Attorney General's office had to go and ask for more money in order to investigate these claims of civil rights violations. And I think what they were doing was saying, if you don't want to spend the money, don't worry, we won't actually investigate it. but they were putting a price tag and saying, do we want to spend more money to try and get some accountability? And the answer is absolutely we do, and we want it with the money that we already spent. But here we are.
But the
That
thing is,
would require somebody having to give some of that money back, and that's never going to happen.
Theo, come back on camera, will you? I definitely want to hear you on this one.
I was just going to say that would require someone having to give some of that money back, and that's never going to happen.
Well,
So I think
yeah.
that the cases it's almost as if I feel they want these cases to go. They want the public to challenge them. They want to pay out. They keep paying out for some reason. They want to pay out. You know, it's almost like they want to destabilize and destroy the system. You know, destroy the trust in the public's trust in the system.
Well, they want to just destroy the economy of it, because if every time someone else makes a mistake, it comes out of your pocket. There's no real lesson being learned. There's no incentive to stop the violations. There's none, unless usually dirty cops that get found out doing stuff move from one precinct to another department to another.
Wandering cops or gypsy cops, yeah.
There's a term for it. Gypsy cops.
Oh yeah. No, this is one of the things that the reason they needed to have all this information from all the diverse organizations, because we have what we call wandering cops or gypsy cops,
like
that they go one foot. Yeah. No, it's exactly like that.
I'm sorry.
You know, they work somewhere long enough to get fired for misconduct, even though it doesn't get disclosed, and then they go right down the street to another precinct or office or agency or whatever, and then boom, they're back employed and they're starting with a clean slate again. But you know, this is what the Brady List, you know, undoes, is because now their record can follow them from office to office.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the idea.
They're completely unaccountable over here. We've got a couple of cases that I'm following at the moment. One where a 14-year-old black girl was strip searched in the back of a van. They ripped her clothes off with the scissors. They cut her knickers off, everything, and left her in there. Kept her in custody for 20 hours. A 14-year-old girl, right?
I assume she was raped.
And then another one, a video I saw yesterday. A guy was dropping off his his two daughters. He's dropping off his oldest at work. He stopped at a McDonald's with his youngest daughter. She was 13. Went into McDonald's. There was 10, 12 coppers, whatever, standing around doing nothing. And he made a comment that, you know, look at these not standing around doing nothing, you know. And one of the sergeants overheard him, got butthurt about it, and decided to arrest him. Failure to stop, the charge was. They took his car, they beat him up, they cuffed him, they put him in the van, then they dragged him out of the van, put his hands behind his back, beat him up some more, tased him, sprayed him, threw him back in the van. Meanwhile, the daughter, they assaulted the daughter. They ripped the keys out of her hands, threatened her so many times with arrest for obstruction and all this stuff. They stole the car, you know, he was in the car park. They took the car as well, and they charged him with failure to stop and resisting arrest. Yeah, all because they were butthurt. Yeah. And all of this is on the body cam videos, and you can see the body cam videos. They know that they're recording, but you know, when the guy was screaming, where you know, he'll walk away, you know, and where they started assaulting the girl, you know, he moved to the side so the camera wouldn't catch what they were doing to her, you know. And they continue to do this with impunity. You know, they carry on like
impunity.
Even though the videos, I mean, you've got a certain amount of time to request these videos as well, and they'll delay you as much as possible, and then they'll delete the videos and give you some, you know, BS excuse.
But that's why we need real-time feeds. We don't want to get these guys the ability to delete videos. They shouldn't even have access. There should be no buttons on the camera, no nothing.
Did you guys see how they
real-time
treated?
video?
Did you see how they treated the journalist over at Davos? Because you know Davos is.
Oh
they
yeah,
don't
they
have,
cornered him off, and yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I don't know about this. You guys can
I'll send you
educate
the.
me.
I'll send you the video. In Switzerland, they don't have the same laws over there. They have like the privacy laws are slightly different to
Yeah,
ours.
you're not allowed to video anyone, including
Without-
officers, without their
without
permission,
permission,
and
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, which is ridiculous.
Well, how about
and apparently they
videoing
got
oneself?
5,000 troops over there. They've got literally, they're protected right now by 5,000. I mean, isn't that a bit overkill, a bit excessive? I mean, we've got and we're funding that, right? We've got
Oh, yeah.
5,000
Okay,
troops.
I want to back up
protecting
though.
them.
Okay, let's say you have a camera phone. You're videoing yourself. You're videoing yourself getting kicked, punched, whatever. I mean, is that not going to be usable?
Nope.
My fist is in the camera in your face. You need my permission for that.
Yep.
And I think that's what they're going to do.
Pitching
to
that.
us.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Listen, guys, we got to take a commercial break here. I pushed back all the breaks. We got to take the top of the hour break. We're going to do a little song, and then we're going to get back into the show. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. F the police. Listen, this is the second hour of the Red Pill Hardcore Radio Show. Wow. I'm going to have to make a behind the scenes archive for you guys. Maybe I'll make a Patreon or something. I don't know. I want to make my own thing. And the only person I have, not the only person, but the most trusted person I have is Theo here. He's my coder guy. He's my tech guy. And he's very impressive. I mean, build a site, a social network. I could have had him build something for us sooner. It's just partnership, money, all that stuff. That's just and plus, it's awesome to keep an ace in your pocket. Theo is like one of those aces, which is why I'm glad he's joined the show today. I didn't summon him, guys. It's just divine providence.
That's
I
what
think.
I'm like. I just turn up.
He's perfect for this show. But and then we have another technological guy over here who's doing the keyboard warrior thing, and there's a certain level of ignorance that the government wants to keep you at. I think it's just societal. They want to tell you that things are so hard, so difficult to do. You know, there's an app out there that tells you how to build apps. You know, there are things that you can do. I literally had to, as a targeted individual, someone harassed by the NSA, you know, destroying computers, you know, one right after the other. I had to get into uh, security. I went from being a video gamer that, you know, one click install video games and play video games to a guy that has a network of computers, one doing this security job, another one doing that job, and then, you know, I've gone to that guy. I'm now that guy that has to have a redesign and cracked, broke down, stripped down operating system to be able to do what I do just because I'm under attack so much. Yeah, I'm that guy now. So it literally, you have to do things when you're under attack from the government. You have to do things. I wasn't going to put up with it. I literally lived in a town where I started being attacked, all these cyber attacks, and then all of a sudden, all the computer repair shops closed down. A small town, and then all three closed down. So I was totally and royally screwed. I went from friend's house to friend's house using computers, and they all tell me that the computers don't work anymore. You know, that sort of thing. A friend had uh, a notice from their IP address, Comcast, ladies and gentlemen, Comcast, where they let the FBI come in, and it basically it was a notice saying that we're going to control your internet. We're watching you. We're going to control your internet. I was doing some research with the covert stuff. You guys know what I do. I don't have to go explain that. You guys know what I do. And so this is what we need. We need technological warriors stepping up, because we had 9/11 happen. I've been telling everybody the next 9/11 that's going to come up is going to be a cyber attack, and they're going to clamp on anybody with cyber tech knowledge. And that sort of thing has scared people away from being computer literate. We need people not afraid to join this little cyber revolution that we're having. I mean, I've dreamed of having an app where I can record a police officer doing his crap, his misconduct, his corruption, and once the video's done, it being sent straight to a lawyer.
Mhm.
I've been seeing videos online. I've been seeing videos where police are coming to people's houses with warrants to their phones and their fingerprints. I don't know if you've heard of this, Johann, but
Oh yeah.
their fingerprints. And so the warrant's not to the person themselves. They'll handcuff the person, go to their phone, force them to give up their fingerprint to get into their phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And with that
this
kind
is
of,
assuming that they don't get the service providers to be able to give them a backdoor hack anyway. I mean, most of the time you're hacked, you never even know it.
On the level of dumb cops. This is the level of street cops. This is the dummies. Okay, these sociopaths who get a job on the police force because they're too dumb to do anything else. The high school bullies. And this is for an immediate arrest because they have to warrant and validate that arrest. Okay, we've opened up the phone. You've got pictures of drugs. You've got the text deals with the drug dealer or whatever it is that they say they have. They can implant the evidence that they want, but what they're really after is evidence of their own crimes. People who have recorded police, or people who have recorded misconduct and have made claims and have filed or made some sort of report. Yeah, I have the video right here on my phone. And these cops want to come after that video.
Yep.
instead of storing that video on the phone, well, first off, people, if you're using your thumbprint as a security measure, you're daft. I think is that what they say in the UK?
Sure.
You're daft. That's total bollocks.
You're asking for
And
your
so
finger to be cut off.
if you're gonna use a thumbprint access code, also have behind that you can have multiple verifications on your phone, multiple security measures. You can have as many apps as you want. You have them come out one after the other. 10 apps that require a code to get to a certain file. You can do that. People, you're all so lazy. I'm so paranoid. I've done it. I put 10 layers of codes before you can get to a certain set of pictures to get to my gallery on my phone. I've done it. So you can do that. I suggest people do that. But we need these photos, these videos going straight to somewhere, right?
Yeah, everything should be headless. Everything that's a tech term that means that we have all the code that functions at one layer, and then we have storage at an entirely separate destination, and we make it redundant.
Redundancy
and
is the
two-factor, yeah, absolutely, and two-factor authentication, and absolutely decentralized. And this is where cryptocurrency, Bitcoin's coming in. This is where the blockchain's coming in.
And this is I'd like to make a point about the blockchain.
Please.
I mean, what made blockchain special was its decentralization, right? It was decentralized. But this new digital currency that they're trying to force down us. I mean, over here they announced the Bitcoin to replace our cash, and I assume they're going to do something very similar in the US as well.
They are, and they've already got it set up. Everybody's like, "Oh, they're still working on it." No, they've got it.
It's already there. Yeah, it's there. Yeah. But it's a centralized.
The NSA has had a Bitcoin ready for us for the longest time. I know I whistleblowed on that one.
Centralizing a cryptocurrency, it's pointless, right? I mean, the whole point of a decentralized blockchain is that it can't be altered, right?
Well, it's pointless for us, but it's their point that's getting done.
Yeah,
it's not pointless. It makes sure that people adhere to what is digital that can change at any time. Who's to say that they don't come up with a way to change the forensics to make it untraceable, to change how much money you have in your account? A physical hard
like
cash
a delete button?
Physical hard cash in your hand. You can't deny that unless you burn it up in a fire. Okay, but to change, they can change your identity. They can just one day that the chip that scans in your hand can tell you that you're somebody else.
Yeah, and that as
they
well.
Can tell you that you're an escaped federal prison person, and can be picked up by police at any time. They can change.
The BBC are announcing it like it's a good thing. I mean, stick a chip in your hand. Why don't you? Go and pay for things with the chip, and it's just so easy. It's convenient. It's convenient.
Well, so what we have to do, and Theo, I don't want to cut you off if you were done.
Go, I'm done.
It's the model that I actually use for Brady is actually a DAO, so it's a distributed autonomous organization. Now, don't get me wrong; it's not built on Lightning, and it's not executable contracts. It's just that it's got this software nature where the individuals don't need to be connected; they can have their own autonomous groups, and that's what we want to give to the citizen reporters: is give them an autonomous group. They can make up their own decision, they can have their own communications, but they can publish it in a way that it gains from being part of this mass that again goes back to domain authority and relevance to search engines and indexing, because it's standardized format. Part of this, if you look at the definitions for what we've decided are the Brady offenses, which we've taken from all the different post departments around the country, now we have so many. We have over 111. We just passed this last week 111,000 records, and because they're they're using the same offenses with the same definitions over and over again. If you go actually look up the legal definition of some of our offenses, it's our definition. It's the one that we put out there because the system is so much bigger than any one agency or any one jurisdiction could do, and it represents that it's part of every jurisdiction, or at least within the U.S. Sorry, that's a little ethnocentristic that I don't necessarily mean, but I think you know what I'm trying to go for. So we're actually we're using this tech to define the people's ability to mandate accountability, to visualize it, and put it to where the courts may not turn their back on this information. It has to be dealt with. Anytime one of these officers, whether they were terminated or not, anytime they go into a court of law, this record goes with them. And that is something we've never had before. And we even to this day, we need it desperately. And I'll tell you right now, we also have a very short window of this working. This isn't going to work forever because the Supreme Court's come out with a decision as of yesterday where they're essentially suspending habeas corpus at the federal level. They're not allowing state appeals to go to the federal level and simultaneously introduce new evidence, which this Brady evidence would be considered new evidence. It's just that it would come under prosecutorial misconduct in order to get it in. So you gotta know SCOTUS is dealing with the qualified immunity thing, and they are shutting things down. They are shutting opportunities down. So we've got to do this, and we've got to do it in a short period of time. And by that I mean we've got maybe 5 years that this whole thing is got any value at all before we've completely lost it. The opportunity, I mean.
So before it can lose any value, we need to get it.
We need to get loaded. We need
Public
to get
knowledge
mandatory.
to everybody that we can, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we got to get people participate. Whether it's support your auditors, support your cop watchers, support shows like this that are communicating it. Election, by the way, we're right in the middle of, we've got elections coming up, and this Brady issue is a huge issue in voting that everybody can understand, that you don't have to know who everybody is and know all the issues. But right now, we for the first time ever in Los Angeles have actually had an open public debate of the candidates for sheriff. This is the first time that's ever happened. And every single one of those candidates was asked the question point blank, will you support a public-facing Brady list? And every one of the candidates, not the incumbent, but every one of the candidates said, yes, absolutely, will support and participate in the Brady list. So do that with your DAs, do that with your judges. And I can't tell you how much this isn't something that's going to change at the White House level. This is going to change at like the county board of supervisors, the city mayor,
city council,
right? City council, absolutely. Every city council.
Yes.
And if you're a property owner and you're a taxpayer, you're going to be paying the tab for when these DAs and prosecutors screw up, or when you have bad cops on the street. That's where the money's going to get sucked out of the system. So you better believe that we need city council members and mayors and supervisors and the whole bit. We need them committed to bringing actual change, not waiting on Washington, D.C. and the silly administration, but we need those people that everybody knows each other, small town America, that says we will have accountability, and we will make sure that financial accountability goes through to the people that create the debt, not just Joe the taxpayer or Jane the taxpayer, whatever you want to.
Well, I can tell you, we need to get this program also moving in the UK.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I can get you two together, maybe us three together, and brainstorm and how to get that extended over to the UK. Because if you're already talking Canada and Australia, and oh god, Australia needs it.
Yeah.
I think after Australia, the country needs it the most is the UK.
Well, and we're going to be able to do multiple languages as well. We've actually got that ability already loaded. We just haven't exposed it. So I mean, we can expand for all intents and purposes worldwide in a very short period of time. That's
I
how
think
we
it
do
has to. It has
technology
to
anyway.
go worldwide. This isn't just a US problem. This is a worldwide problem.
Absolutely.
Once it's adopted
We
by
need to
the United
attack. We need
States,
to
it will
attack it
spread
that
to
way.
the rest of the
Deal with it.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lead by example, so it has to. It absolutely has to. Um, but I really want to see some justice in the UK here because they are also. It's the Five Eyes, that lead by example. The rest of the world adopts what we do, us English-speaking countries. So,
If we lose it, everyone else is gone.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and we've got the model of law that values this input, right? I mean, common law is where
Mhm.
it comes from, and if you when I was dealing with the state bar on the access to justice issues, you can have all the excuses you want from judges and lawyers and law enforcement. If the people don't sign off on it, the thing that I love, you look at Prince George County, look at Maryland, all of Maryland and all of Massachusetts right now are issuing police uh, oversight boards. They're all looking at civilian oversight. They're doing phenomenal projects where every single complaint, and understand that's part of the function of Brady List as well. Every complaint is at a level that a civilian review board can look at it without any permission or any access need to be granted by law enforcement. So it's right there, it's clear, it's accessible, and it's actionable information.
We have so far to go. We have so far to go because I think, again, instead of defunding the police, which is not exactly the answer, uh, because if you take money away from somebody who has authority and power, they're going to go straight to corruption. They're going to go
Yes.
straight to the drug dealing and the human
Money is not the
trafficking
problem.
and
It's
everything
the
like that.
corrupt officials that need to be removed.
But and I've always said on the show, city council, that's kind of where it begins.
Yeah.
They have us so stupid that with Monday Night Football and all this other stuff with the TV and just working us 12-hour shifts, working us to the bones. Nobody's making it to that city council.
Well, our
Nobody
local
cares
councils are
It
hiring
used to
local
be.
security to keep members of the public out of the local council meetings. Imagine
Really?
that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So
Ugh.
yeah, imagine that. So you go to they got a public council meeting and they got private security keeping the members of the public out, and you can't record. They don't like you being recorded, even though you're perfectly entitled to record. It's a public meeting, but they just. That's where
in
we need the
America,
auditors. We need
as a
the auditors
citizen,
to start, doing more council meetings and so on. The police is one thing. I think they're starting to learn now. I mean, most of the audits over here in the UK, when they go and audit the police, they kind of leave them alone, or they come out and play to the camera. Otherwise, yeah, council meetings, they're the ones that need to be audited next, I think.
well, that is wow. The situation is much dire in the UK than I thought. In the US, because this is where I started doing my activism outside of heading flyers at grocery stores and things like that. I started going to city council meetings, and it was there that I found sort of a political identity that I can push forward, a little bit of power. Even though I was not being listened to, but at least it was a place a forum where I can talk to the other politically minded people, and I gained some friends, some allies. So it's there where we need to start.
I can't agree more, but let me suggest
Mhm.
something, which I've found in recent times. I don't feel like I need to go into a market and create an organization. If I'm sitting here in Los Angeles, I don't need to go into Dallas and do this. You'll
Mhm.
find that those groups already exist, And this is why, again, we did the citizen reporters deal, because if I go find a group of family members of people that are incarcerated, and they go, you wouldn't believe the conditions, the pictures we see, the complaints we hear, and I go, you know what? I can't believe it, because there's so much of it. Every time I think I've heard it all, I get surprised, and it just breaks my heart again. But I go to that group and I go, okay, let's make you a citizen reporter. Let's talk to your network. Let's see how many complaints you've got. And when I find somebody that says, oh, by the way, I've got some complaints, I'm not talking one or two. I'm talking they've got 200, 300, 400. You know, and they're stacking them up, and they know exactly who every CO is. They know exactly who every deputy is in their community. They know exactly what the sheriff's skeletons are buried.
This is where I was getting to with my point. This is where I was getting to. For the simple fact that there should be a review done by the citizens in the city council. Okay, we got so many complaints against this cop. Let him go.
Right.
It's hiring the same way. We need, okay, this cop he wants to apply to be a cop. What's his background? And his career should be watched.
What does Brady profile say? Yeah.
You know, I think we should take a closer look at the people doing the hiring. Because it seems like they're choosing certain people.
Militant against the people.
I even read an article in the US. Apparently, they've got an IQ test, maximum IQ test.
Yes.
Maximum.
I applied to be a police officer myself. They said my IQ was too high. And not those words, but
yeah. Well, V, you said you were a vet, right?
Army vet, yes.
Okay, so you got a DD 214.
Yes.
Okay, that's all we're doing for officers. A straight up DD 214. That's it. Everybody that served in the military has one. It's all standardized. We know what it all means, and yet, you know, we can't get one for law enforcement who are running around with weapons, interacting with not just citizens but any individual that's in the U.S. at the time. Mm-hmm. And we can't get a basic list. I will say Georgia does this well, by the way. But we need to get basic lists. We need to know what they're trained at, what they're proficient at, what they're cleared for, what they're aware of, what any disciplinary issues, any promotional issues, good and bad.
Where they served, maybe.
Even if they served, then you throw a DD 214 link in there, and that's good to go. Yeah. Right. So this can be done. It has been done. The only reason it doesn't exist is because they don't want it to exist.
That's right.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
We can do this. We can absolutely do this, and we can empower the masses. And this is technology, so it's not like I gotta reproduce this thing 1 million times to have 1 million people participate. They can all just go to their phone and file their complaint, upload their video, and we're good to go.
Yeah. Theo has heard me rant. Why don't we have a website where we have corrupt cops listed? Why don't we have, people filing complaints with us? Why don't we have this? And at this point in time, I didn't know you existed, but I think we can combine forces at this point, can't we?
Absolutely. And Theo, just so you know, from the technology perspective, all of our complaint forms, we provide to the public the JavaScript snippet so it can be embedded in any number of websites. So if you've got an active group, again, just use the Dallas example. I don't have to go to Dallas. I don't have to create a new website. I don't have to, they don't even have to create a new website. We give them one line of code, one snippet, and they embed that in their site. And now they've got our form with our computing power, with our security, our headless structure, our redundancies and everything else, compiling and cross-referencing and doing what we call the entity reference to put this officer's information and the complaint about that officer into all the appropriate places and then indexed by the search engines in a matter of minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
One of the things I do is I build websites for some of these auditors, some YouTubers who've had their channels deleted and so on. I think empowering them, giving them that ability. I think that's the most most people nowadays, they're not reporters, they're not journalists, they don't have that following, they don't have the,
Yeah.
they'll pull up a video and they'll get 40 views, maybe 50 views.
Mhm.
And having something like that where you're going to get a minimum, everyone's going to see it, everyone's going to see it.
Oh yeah. Well, and
How,
we
go
have
how about
viral.
the Brady
millions
List
of page
channel?
views.
Hmm.
You know what? Do one. I got my hands are full here. So
Well, maybe I can be of service to you, sir.
there you go. We can
How
work that
about the
out.
Brady List channel?
Yeah. Well, it's not
Yeah.
like we're gonna run out of material,
No, no time soon.
right?
It's just getting better.
And that's why I like to encourage these, because if these auditors already have their own YouTube channel, if they already have their own website, give them the tools they need to just be bigger.
Exactly.
Give them the tools they need to get out there further. And we're sitting here. I got 100 and whatever 11,000 records, but we're doing like 1.5 to 2 million page views per month. So we've got eyes, right? And we know this topic is a topic of conversation. We know the politicians are discussing it. We know the people are discussing it at the dining room table at night. We know the kids are discussing it. We see things like I told myself I wasn't going to go here, but the shooting in Texas, where these cops stood around for an hour while the gunman's locked in a room with a bunch of kids that's just he's randomly slowly shooting. I mean, we cannot wait for them to do the right thing. It'll never happen. They've had 60 years since this decision was made at the Supreme Court, and these prosecutors are still not doing the right thing, and accountability for law enforcement still does not exist. We have to start it. We're going to have to start it. It's going to come from the people, and it's the only way it'll stick.
Right.
I'll get off my
Absolutely.
soapbox now.
The only time something ever gets done is when the people get up and do it themselves. If you
Yeah.
wait around for the government, it never gets done. Never gets done right. They always cut corners. Always blaming everybody else. They're always sucking more and more and more and more and more and more and more money for fixing something that should have been fixed years ago. This is just a long, never-ending story with them. So the only time something ever gets done is when the people get up and do it themselves.
I think their money keeps flowing as long as it doesn't get fixed.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
It's sort of like how,
It's like shooting yourself in the
as
foot.
long as
Why
you have a
fix it?
boogeyman like the CIA, the CIA keeps getting a blank check to do whatever they want to do, right?
They've got their hands in the cookie jar, and the cookie jar's permanently.
Russia, give us a check. Russia, give us a check. Russia, give us another check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
and
I think
that's external, but
that's
but
another
we're
reason
the
why they
same
want
thing
to
with the
pay
money for
out.
law enforcement. Yeah.
I think that's another reason why they want to keep paying out in the court cases, because you see that kind of hides how much money they're actually. I mean, imagine how much they can hide in that money. I mean, he didn't he just sign a $6 trillion check? Let's go, Brandon. How much did he just sign?
I mean, I hate
He was
to
in
say
the
it.
trillion.
I
Are you
don't
talking
add
about
them
the
all up.
infrastructure? That was $1 trillion for the infrastructure.
Okay, so he likes the trillion, and then it was only just a little while just before him that Donald Trump signed another $1 trillion check. So they like signing these $1 trillion checks, and I don't think the public realize the immense,
No, we don't.
the gravity of $1 trillion. I mean, seriously, I mean they've just normalized that number. $1 trillion is it's
For
just
$1 trillion, everybody in their own personal lives should be able to feel a personal effect. When $1 trillion
at least.
bill has passed and nothing's changed in your world, guess what? You just got duped.
Yeah.
There are countries
Well-
with millions of people with populations with millions of people that don't have £1 trillion in their deficit. These people are spending trillions of pounds like it's nothing, and they're getting ready to sign more checks.
I like to go a little bit. I go the other direction. I don't. I come from way up there and I drill down. If you ever want to have a sheriff go to jail, right? Just if you just assume you don't like him and you assume he's a bad guy, and you ever want him to go to jail, all you have to do is create one investigation. And that's the investigation of the commissary system of the jail and prison for the county. It's usually a jail for the county. Prison's usually a state thing. But if you look into those commissary programs where they're jacking up phone bills and they're selling you a ramen for $5 or whatever it is. I mean, all that money is coming from the people, and it inevitably is getting a big piece scraped off and going into that sheriff's pocket, because it's going to be his wife's going to own the commissary program, or his brother-in-law or his cousin's going to own it. And it's just a spectacular boondoggle. And we catch officers all the time that are, lying about overtime, lying about sick pay, lying about vacation time, and gaming the system. And then they get offered the chance to resign instead of be prosecuted, and they go work somewhere else.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that? Listen, I've heard interviews after interviews with retired police officers. They'll talk about
they made it 12 years and then got their $300,000 a year, 100% vested retirement. Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm a big fan of Bill Burr, and he did the Uninformed show, and he had this retired cop on in which he interviewed, and this retired cop said, "Yeah, no, we had these productivity, quote unquote, marks in which they had to meet, which is another way of saying quota." He said we can't legally call it a quota, but now it's been turned into productivity, and they had to bring in a certain amount of revenue, each police officer. So that meant if you didn't meet your productivity mark, you're working weekends. Your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the cops that didn't want to work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they wanted to meet their productivity mark. They would just walk down the street and write everybody the same ticket on their vehicles. Not wheel not facing the curb. And they would just and get it over with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is the kind of stuff we need to stop, because it's all revenue. If we can stop the revenue, there's a YouTuber by the name of Chuck Bronson who does
I saw him
bait
on
car.
Real News Tonight, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Yeah, they did a great episode on him. Yeah.
The guy's great. He has a rear view camera, a front view camera, and he live streams from his phone. And he catches. He has a Google watched speedometer.
Right,
It watches his speed, so he knows he's not speeding. And he'll be on cruise control, but he'll still get pulled over for speeding.
Mm-hmm.
And he catches
record
these dirty
when he stops
cops.
at stop signs, so that they can't. Absolutely.
Yeah. But these cops are still pulling him over, wanting to give out tickets. And it's revenue. These courts are fueled by revenue. If each car in the United States turned into a bait car, I love the term bait. A bait car to catch these criminal cops, and then take all these claims to court. Let's flood the court system. All this stuff will be dropped. At risk of exposure versus them losing some revenue. I mean, they're just going to jackhammer something else in the system.
Well, that's why we exist now,
but
because not only do we beat it in court, we record it. You got to record it, because if you go in and just beat it in court, it's not going anywhere. There's no discipline. There's no accountability. That's not gonna do anything. You've got to get it. You've got to file the report. You got to force the court to deal with the record.
Yeah. But you got to get into court to get, because these cops got to come off the street to testify,
Yep.
right? That's at least
Yeah.
one day that they're out off
Oh,
the
if I ever
streets.
get a ticket,
That's one
I make
day.
sure to take it to trial just to get the officer off the street for a day.
Just for a day.
Yeah.
And so,
And at the same
if you
time,
find that they're dirty, they get fired. In a not so corrupt county, they'll get fired. So that's a cop that you can bring off the streets. That's corrupt.
I haven't found
Everybody
that
can do their
county yet.
part. People don't understand they can do their part just by doing something as simple as that and ejecting a corrupt cop off the streets.
Yep.
but it's the retaliation that comes with it, the targeting, the
Yeah.
fear,
Yeah.
and they do target you, and they do retaliate.
Absolutely,
but
they do.
as long as you keep having a camera feed on you,
And it is
what else
scary.
you got the fear? As long as you keep the camera on these people, as long as you are in good company, I think you don't have anything to fear. You
I
get
wouldn't go that
situated
far.
with a good organization. After you eject one of these cops out, get into one of these organizations that may have your back because they trust you in order to get in one of these perps off the streets.
I've
and
noticed
build
some
it
of
up
these
from
people,
there.
they don't care that you're recording. They'll quite happily do whatever they
Yeah.
need to do. They know they've got a golden parachute.
I understand that. But if they don't care, there are some people that are suicidal and they'll kill themselves. I don't care if they don't care. Let them kill themselves.
I mean,
All right,
I
we
think
just went on a tangent I didn't follow, but okay.
just these cops that don't care if you're recording, and they'll just keep beating
Yeah.
you, or they'll keep doing whatever.
There's no good answer, because the deal is now that if the system, it's like that finger of death. If the Grim Reaper reaches out and touches you, they got you. If law enforcement at this point reaches out and says, I'm going to press charges on you, you're not going anywhere. They're pressing charges. You're going to jail until, guys, we have suspended speedy trial in every single major city right now in the U.S. Constitutional speedy trial of 6 months is gone. It does not exist. Right?
Will has talked about that because he requested a speedy trial, didn't he? He was denied, right?
Well, it's across the board now. Yeah, it's and just so we're clear, that was pre-pandemic status. We just had a guy out of King County, which is the county that includes Seattle, Washington, just got out of jail after what was it, 8.5 years. He'd been arrested for murder. They never went to trial. He was never convicted of anything, and they kept him in limbo, sitting in jail for 8.5 years. That's not even supposed to be able to happen. There are remedies in the system that the judges have to openly ignore their obligations in order to not see them come out. We had one in LA that sat there for 2.5 years.
Like I said, I've had drugs planted on me twice. Now the other situation, I hired a lawyer. I just learning how the system works. I hired a lawyer who would just push back the court date, 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 push back. Well,
if he's your lawyer, then your speedy trial just went out the window all by itself.
But the thing is, I hired him because I know and I understand the system. The system is getting flooded. More cases,
absolutely.
More cases. So I hired a lawyer to push back the court date, push back the court date, push back the court date. Half the time, he pushed back the court date because he needed to.
Right.
So over a 5-year thing, they're like, listen, probation, it won't go on your record. I said, okay. I'm out.
Yeah, deferred judgment, right.
Yeah. So the system wanted to play me. I played the system. That's the only thing you can do at this point. You got to learn how these people work.
Well, I'm not complaining about that. I wouldn't suggest to someone that that's going to work in every instance, or that's going to be in every case, or put it this way.
It's not going to work.
You can do that if you find yourself in that situation. I wouldn't go out and create a situation thinking that that's going to get you out of it, though.
No, the only reason why it worked is the whole judge talked to me. Oh, you're so brilliant. You're so intelligent. Thinking that thinking I'm gonna come up to the podium. Oh, inward this, inward that, bad language, bad behavior. Thinking I'm gonna be like that. But I shock people when I speak. Oh, you're so intelligent. Why are you even in my courtroom? You shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And so that's that certain racism, reverse racism that I've taken advantage of myself personally. No, it's not going to work for everybody else, but that's what I took advantage of in that certain situation.
More power to you. More power to you. I at some point when we look at this type of system and the standardization and the scale of it, I can honestly say I have a lot of faith in judges. I have more faith in juries, even though I recognize all of the above are flawed. I would like to think
Jury
that I
trial
contribute
always.
and impart an efficiency and an accuracy. When we talk about Brady, that doesn't mean the individual didn't commit a crime, and we're not trying to get guilty people out of jail necessarily, but we are wanting to uphold that Bill of Rights standard that not a single innocent individual gets punished by the system wrongfully.
Well, I mean, because as it stands, we have people treated as guilty before proven innocent. How many
Right.
people have lost a year or two in county jail before they're let go for something that they didn't do? That's a year
80%
or
of
two
those
that they
charged
didn't.
with a misdemeanor? Yeah.
That's a year or two that they of their lives that. Oh well,
Well,
I've been in
and
that
jobs
situation too.
and living arrangements and relationships and
Traumatizing.
yeah.
I have been in that situation. 5 months behind a suspended license I didn't know about because I was in the army. I come back home. I'm driving in my car. Ooh, targeted, suspended license for no reason whatsoever. 5 months. I spent 5 months in jail. Lost my girlfriend, who's pregnant. Didn't let me see the child. Lost car, my property. I lost everything. As you just said. You know what you're talking
That's
about.
the damage. Yeah, that's the damage that's being done, and I don't think the general population knows the damage that's being done, and I don't think they know the coercion that follows the plea bargains, and I don't think they know the financial hardship that's
Do you think
continued
it's
because.
deliberate by design?
No, I think it's malicious indifference.
Wow, I like the term, malicious indifference.
Yeah, it's well when you look at it, like there's a certain level of incompetence, and then there's
Uh-huh.
a certain after a certain point, you go, well, you've been incompetent for so long, you've got to know you're incompetent, and it sort of turns into, well, I don't really care enough in order to not be, incompetent. So it's malicious, and
Yes.
comes entirely from indifference. I talk to judges all the time. They have no idea the damage they cause, none whatsoever, and they
None.
think none whatsoever, and they think that they're thinking at this high level about a complex scenario and a intense level of variables. And I always like to say that lawyers like to say that they're playing chess and we're all playing checkers. Thing is, I'm in tech. I play Go. All right.
Yeah. There you go.
I deal with a level of complexity. I deal with quantum
The same thing
computing.
with my partner Theo here.
Yeah. I'm dealing with complexity. I can look at the solid majority, and I'm talking 95% of what goes through the courts, and I can say I can commoditize it, I can automate it, I can automate the workflow and accomplish this task in a fraction of the time and a fraction of the resources. And they look at me and go, "Oh, it's complicated," and I go, "No, it's not. No, it's not. Not in
It's
the
not.
slightest."
Well, that's every department of government. Oh, it's going to take 6 months, or it's going to take some odd years. Why? I know as a person, I could contract somebody and get it done in a couple weeks.
All right, so here's a little bit of Schadenfreude that you can enjoy with the Brady list. When we did this, we've got all these officers going in, and I'm talking to law enforcement. I'm talking to prosecutors. So they said, well, we have to have a process if an officer wants to have their name removed from the list. And I said, you know what? I think that's a beautiful thing for a bureaucratic form. We should make them fill out the form, and we should make them provide the evidence,
Yeah,
and we
that's
should make them
perfect.
make a statement, and we should make them check a box that says, I've been advised of my rights under Title 18, obstruction of justice of the U.S. Code, and Title 11, destruction of evidence under the U.S.
Brilliant
Code.
idea.
And you know how many requests for removals I get where they actually do the bureaucratic form? Fucking zero. Fucking zero.
Why?
They call me all the time saying, I'm going to sue you, I'm going to kick your ass, all this kind of stuff if you don't take my name off the list. None of them go and
see,
actually do
that's
the
that
form.
totalitarian
Yeah.
mindset. They are supreme.
That's all they got.
Yeah.
Intimidation. That's all they
Ooh,
got.
no,
Yeah.
no. You know what? Anytime these people have a threat that they want to throw at you, forward my address. I'm combat trained. I'm ready to go. Listen. Send my address. You got a problem? Come see about me.
So it's, I mean, we can
Mess around
gain a
and find
little bit
out.
of pleasure in that because I know I got where I got all my information. I know where all the backup is. I mean, we even put the authority. You know, when they get decertified, we actually tell them, don't call us. Call the state post department. They're the ones that decertified you. This is your legal case, not ours.
Ask them and put my contact information on there if they want to whine and cry about it. Let's get a video recording, at least the audio recording of it, please.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, you are someone I consider an ally, a friend, a brother, in arms here. You can always contact me anytime you want, any hour of the day. I will never turn you
Appreciate that,
away.
Pete.
You're a kindred spirit. I'm trying to gather all my brothers here. I'm trying to gather up. You're an exquisite human being. I love what you do. You know, I have these ideas of people who I should be and what I should be doing, and you fit one of those archetypes, my friend.
Nice, thank you. Thank
You're
you very much.
you're an inspiration, and Theo the same. He's the UK version of you, I think.
Theo, I look
we
forward
need
to us
get
talking.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
we need to get this
add you
going in
on,
the
on
UK,
Skype.
my friend.
I've got some questions I need to ask you.
Cool, cool.
And you two, I want you to, behind the scenes here after the break, get each other's contact information through Skype here.
Yeah.
And I want to give you the next couple minutes to please plug your website. Again, make sure we know which one to go to.
Okay. Real simple. You can Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever, search just the Brady List. We always come up on top because we are kicking ass. The actual
Giglio.
domain, Giglio, exactly right. Giglio-BradyList.com. And matter of fact, you can also find us if you're just looking for your police department, just search their name, the police department's Brady List, and we'll come up for that too, because we're doing it to everybody.
Yeah.
That is so
Coming
awesome.
to the UK soon.
Coming to the UK soon. Absolutely right.
Coming to the UK soon. That's what I'm talking about. I'm loving it. Yes. And see, when you have a targeted individual like Richard Moore and like myself, and see, this is what we can do when we come together.
Yeah.
We don't have to be individuals. We could be a group. We can be an organization. We could be a power to be dealt with. That's what I want. At the end of the day, I want to be answered to. Not answering for. I'm the citizen. I'm the private citizen. I'm the one that makes society what it is. I pay the taxes. I do the work. You know,
I like that.
Why?
I like that. I just want to
You
live
know?
in peace, and frankly, I want to leave this world a better place for my kids.
Yeah.
That's my big thing, right there.
That's
Simple
what
as
I'm
that.
talking about. You know, if it's not, I personally think everybody's doomed as far as the adults, but I do the show for the kids.
Yep.
That's really where it's at. That's our future. We got too many, and it's a whole other show where we have CPS taking the children. I don't know if you have any feelings on that one, but
Deep
or
feelings. I don't know
information.
where to grab a hold of it though.
Yeah. I do a show called Family Case Files. I'm gonna make sure you do some research behind me, just so you know the force of nature that you're dealing with here.
I like it. I like it.
All right. With that said, guys, we are coming up to the end of the show. Thank you to our special guest, Johann. You gotta say your last name for me.
Drolshagen.
Drolshagen.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
I like. See, the thing is, I like Norse mythology. I love Norse culture. I studied it as an elementary student. I was in libraries all the time. Thor and Odin, all that stuff. Drolshagen. I love that whole thing. So just tell me once and I got it.
There you go.
I love that culture. But anyways, and we have Theo on the show as well. Thank you for dropping by. Yes. All right. It's been another episode of the Red Pill Hardcore Radio Show, guys. I'm your host, Gene. And remember, in the land of surveillance, the man with the third eye is king.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of your women. That is good.
Tune in next time to Red Pill Hardcore. Keep it real. Take the Red Pill.
True winner.
Let me get the green light.